Doodle Time, Stranger Things, Season 5, 11, Watercolors, get your paper.
Doodle Time.
I'm using some Strathmore watercolor cold press paper. It retains water really well. For my paints, I got a set of 16 or so watercolor paints. Got my palette. So I've got a basic set of brushes, nothing special about them. Hiya. And I'm using masking tape to tape down the edges of my paper. It'll keep it from moving from the shot. I got water to activate my watercolor paints. A set of pencils, but I'll be using one. For this, I'm using a 3H pencil. Let me just clean this up. I've got an eraser in case I get crazy with my pencils. Okay, so first thing I want to do is to tape down my paper in place so it doesn't move around too much. I've got it lined up with the camera quite precisely. So what this is also going to do is, once I finish the painting, I'm going to take off the edges, the tape, and it's going to leave a nice white border that the tape doesn't penetrate. I can use that to sign on if I want, or leave a little note, or just leave it white. Starting off with my doodle, or sketch, or drawing. I'm working real nice and light with a 3H pencil. 3H is on the denser side of pencils, so it doesn't leave a very harsh mark on the paper. So if I work very lightly, I can make nice light lines that aren't very visible, and they'll kind of hide once I apply paint all around this picture. So I work with a lot of straight lines. If you see the movement of my pencil, even curved areas are made up of a lot of straight lines. That's just kind of how I am comfortable drawing a line. Getting the eyes in place here. Eyes are important. I feel, especially if you're drawing someone recognizable, the eyes are one of the most recognizable parts of their face. You kind of want to nail that. So gonna get my palette ready, looking at the reference image I'm using, and I'm trying to find a color scheme that I can use in my palette. So I'm starting off with an area that's kind of low stakes, applying just water to a section of the paper, onto which I'll apply a little bit of pigment. And by applying water first, when I put water down onto the paper before I apply pigment, it gives the pigment a bit of a surface to absorb into and diffuse into. So it lets me work very lightly and control the density of the paint that's being applied on the paper. Now I'm working on the shadow areas of this painting. There's a shadow behind 11. I want to lay that down and kind of establish a dark point of my painting. That'll give me a reference to how light I want to go with my lighter colors. So I've got this kind of brownish ochreish black that I've mixed together. And I'm kind of using that to lay out all the very dark, shadowy sections of this painting. And if you notice right now, the strokes I'm putting down, they're quite dark. It is essentially the same color that I applied originally on this area on the lower section of this picture. but with less water. And water is gonna kind of dictate how strong the color goes on, how much water I have in ratio to the amount of pigment I have. Working away at the shadows behind this little curtain thing. Whatever that is, it's a little out of focus in the reference image, so I'm not sure exactly what it is I'm looking at. Now I've started to apply some darker shades to 11's eyes and some other shadowy areas around her face. And now getting some areas of 11's hair blocked out. At this stage early in the painting, everything looks quite elementary. It looks quite basic. And it's funny when I finish the painting and kind of look back at this footage, I'm surprised to see it in this stage. It progresses so much over the lifetime of me working on it. That what it's gonna look like and what it looks like now look almost unrecognizable to one another. So the color of this back wall is quite a saturated green, and I'm a little skeptical about going in dark right away. I kind of want to build up areas. So I'm using a very yellowish, ochreish, washed out, diluted green, and kind of laying that down as a base, knowing that I'm gonna go over it. Here we go. Even this green right here isn't quite where I want to land, but I'm working my way there. I find when I'm working with watercolors, I build from light to dark, knowing I'm gonna have a hard time going back to light from a darker area, which is why I tend to work slowly and progress layer by layer. Each time I kind of mix a batch of green for this back wall, it's kind of turning out a little different. But I know if I kind of build the colors and layer them up all close enough, it'll all average to looking the same. And a bit of difference here and there, it gives a painting an organic quality, I think. So this area I just did in the top left, that looks way off than any other green I've got so far on the wall in the background. And it feels like once I've added that section that looks so different, I've created a new problem for myself about inconsistencies in the wall. So this whole process, I think, is about solving visual problems. So the problem to start with was my paper was all white. There's no color on it. I started introducing some color and eliminating that original problem. And I've started to introduce new problems that I'm going to start solving, such as the inconsistency of colors in the wall. So as I'm working section by section, my eyes are kind of scanning for areas in this picture where I see a problem visually and I'd like to kind of address it or solve it. My next problem was there's no color in any skin yet. Hence, applying some color to the skin areas. Starting to introduce a bit of color in sections of 11's hair. And I noticed the back of the handset of this phone kind of has a similar color scheme as some of the highlights in 11's hair. So I applied some of this kind of brownish orange to that area as well while I've had it out. I have a tendency of going too dark when I apply my first layer of color to anyone's lips. I think I have this this excitement for how much the face is going to come to life once color is added to the lips. So I jump into it without pacing myself. So I'm gonna keep working on these shadows, building them up, applying layers over the original ones I put down, and slowly I'll build up the darkness to the values I need them at. And I'll use different colors as I transition from my darkest point to the point I'm trying to fade the shadow into. Adding black or adding white to your color that you're trying to darken or lighten, I think is a little amateurish. There's other colors that become visible in the shadows and highlights of objects, depending on the light source or the way light is bouncing off other aspects of the environment. And I noticed skin has so many different colors that are visible in any skin's complexion. So I want to kind of build up the skin color using a whole range of warm colors and some cool ones in the shadows if need be. Certain angles and certain parts of the skin are going to be a bit more red than others. Some will have a bit more orange. Some areas will have a bit more yellow. Some a bit more purple, or however that might transition out. Now putting a base layer down for 11's t-shirt. And at this point, if I squint my eyes, I can kind of see this looking like what I want it to look like. I've still got a bit of a ways to go, but I'm starting to see the light. Now to try and add some rosy red to the face. It's already starting to come to life. It's starting to look like a person, you know? Now let's add some rich orange to this mix. And with these different values and different colors, I can start to build up the shape of the face. So the face needs some time to dry. The areas around the hair have dried out a bit, so I'm going to start to apply another layer to that to darken it a bit more. And I'll go around and build up some of these darker shadow areas while I still got some of that paint in my palette. Continuing to build up more of the shadow parts of this picture. Now I'm going to use some of that dark paint, mix some green into it, and start applying some more green to the background. And I'll start to get closer to the color I want to end up at. Continuing to build up the face a little bit more. I tend to jump around quite a bit. Not a very focused artist when it comes to sections of the work I'm working on. That's my process. Now this section on the right of 11's hair, I feel pretty good about going in and adding a base layer of I guess this like kind of dark gray blue. Now I'll darken the areas around the eyes. And around the lips and hands and all over the place at this point. Now I'm working carefully around the areas where the shadow behind 11 on the wall meets the areas of the wall where the shadows aren't. I want to make that transition kind of smooth. Now, since I'm working in steps, kind of applying layer by layer, the dark sections that I've placed down to start with, as I've started to build up all these sections, and I build up the highlight sections, the dark sections, the shadows don't quite look as dark as I intended them to or how they looked when I first apply them onto the paper comparing to white. So at times I'll go in and I'll have to like reapply areas of shadows to compensate for the lighter areas getting a bit darker. My darker areas have to get even more darker. I start getting real excited as more and more of the original white that the paper was starts to get covered up. It feels like the finish line is in sight. So I'm pretty inexperienced at using watercolors. I work with oil paints for the most part, and I'm used to how the mediums in oil paints and the paints themselves react to each other. I've got a familiarity with that, which I don't have with watercolor yet. But I kind of, because of that, enjoy the mystery of how pieces are going to turn out. As I'm exploring how water affects, different water, amounts of water will affect the pigments and colors mixing together. It makes this whole process kind of fun and exploratory. And oftentimes, I have an intention of how I want a picture to turn out, but because my skill level with watercolor is still quite low, I get surprised often. And although parts of the picture don't turn out how I want them to, I still kind of like how they turn out regardless. There's interesting textures that emerge from the way water and pigments work with one another and absorb into the paper. So as I'm building up certain areas, I've got a piece of paper towel beside me. And as I'm laying down some pigment that's quite diluted, and I notice it's gone on quite thick, I can quickly go in and kind of pull it off with the paper towel. It'll just slurp it up. And I think because of my inexperience and needing to kind of work up with so many layers, just because I have very little control of watercolors at this point, certain areas look very messy, like the face. I can see that, and I'll admit that. And that's something, as I become more familiar with watercolors in this medium, I'll become a bit more efficient with laying down layers. You notice now I'm going in with white paint, cleaning up some of the areas around the iris of the eyes, and I've added a little twinkle, a little eye light. The oil painter inside me has come out now. And I'm working with these like oil paints. Now this bloody section, it's been driving me nuts all day. I'm working on transitioning from a darker area on the very right of the painting on the wall. That starts to shift towards a lighter part of the wall as it comes left. The area on the top left, I wanted to make that kind of a shadowy area as well. I just feel I've neglected that for the last little bit. Adding some brown to the hair gives it some life. It was looking quite dark and lifeless. I just straight up changed up the color of the shirt. I didn't think it was the right value. I just needed to darken that. Now, for this section, finally, I'm gonna deal with it. Yeah, I was looking at this picture and kind of felt that it's not very clean. It looks like a mess. Whenever I run into that situation, I find my plan to get out of it is to introduce an outline. A nice clean outline will just clean up a lot of the messiness of a piece. It's nuts how much order a line can add to chaos. So this outline I'm adding is almost containing the chaos of this mess I made with watercolors. See what I mean? Clean outline. Gonna add some dimension to the shirt now. It is what it is. Don't love it. I think it's mediocre at best, but that's the point of practice. So I'll take off this tape. Look at that outline. Nice clean border. My watercolor work needs some work, but initial this and on to the next one. Yeah. 11. Supposedly 11. Till next time.